All right, so this is the tutorial for how to make our thumbnails for Sunday. First thing we do, open up Photoshop. Give it a second to load. Once this pulls up, you'll see our different formats here. We've got the different templates. We have our old Sunday template, but what we need is the app template because it gives us more than one. It's a smart object. So you click on that. All right, and then this should pull up. And here you'll see different layers that we need to change. So we need to change the image, the name, and the title. The way you do that is first, you go to the bottom right corner, scroll down to Photo Smart. That's where we're going to start. You double click on Photo Smart, and this should pull up. Next, we need to grab our image that we want to change. So you kind of just drag and drop it in there. And then you get this pops up. So this is just color correction stuff. First thing you got to do really here is you got to white balance. You have to white balance every single time. So you click this little dropper tool and you select something in the frame that's white. All right? And then all this other stuff like exposure, contrast. Exposure, that's brightness. You want to bring it up or down. This is all, you can mess around with it as much as you want. Just don't make it look too bad. Obviously, nothing like that. Nothing too extreme. Just bring up maybe a little bit of contrast. You can mess around with these a little bit. The only stuff that I usually always do is I bring up the texture, clarity, and a little bit of saturation every single time. It just gives the image a little bit more of a pop. And then after that, you just click on OK. And it should load on here. Now we have this little square here, which is just a guideline for where you want the preacher's head to be, his face. So you got to zoom in, obviously, because it's way too zoomed out. We don't want the full image. We want a zoomed in version of this. Okay, you line it up a little bit like this. It's acceptable. You can go even in a little bit more in. Okay, and then you click the check mark up at the top. All right, and then you make sure that Shakula is on top of all the other ones, but underneath the color. See, we don't really need these. We can delete these. So Shakula is on top of the people with the colors there. And then sometimes we like to change the color just to give it more of a difference. The way you do it is you just double click the color. All right, and here you can manually change it as much as you want. You can scroll through the rainbow here, or if you really want, you can use a dropper tool once you scroll off, and you can select something on the image that you like. So usually blue is always a safe bet to go with. Red would be a nice contrast to blue. But here I'm going to go with more of a green color. I tried to match it with the suit. It didn't really work. So I went with a green color. And you just make it look nice. Something like that is fine. You click OK. And basically here we're done. So now you go up to the top and you click the little X mark for this tab and you click yes to save. And it should change everything back there. And the first problem you see is that you see Shakula's hand is cut off in the square one, and we got to adjust that. So the way you do that is you click on it and then you click Control T, which will give you a transformation tool. And you adjust it. You might zoom in, zoom out a little bit here. We want his hand not to be cut off. So you put his body somewhere near the center of it, including his hand. So something like that. That looks nice. If the hand wasn't there, we would center him up. But here, we got to center on his hand. And that's fine. Then we've got the wide for the app here. You zoom in just a little bit. That'll be fine. No big deal here. These ones, you really just judge it by your eye. The long one is usually always good the way it is. And then on YouTube, I usually like to zoom in a little bit more because that's just how YouTube is. YouTube likes faces. So here it's a little bit more zoomed in. And then we've got a beautiful picture of Shakula. Next, we need to change the title and the name. We're going to start off with the name. So you go to speaker's name and you double click it. Here we get this. This is an obvious thing to do. You just double click on it and then you change it to whatever the preacher's name is. So here we got David Shakula. And after you're done, you click the check mark at the top, X, save, yes. And then see David Shakula's changed everywhere. Now we need to do the title. So you go to title and you double click it. Double click the title here as well, and then you just type in whatever the preacher or director gave you, or one that you have to come up with yourself. Sometimes you got to come up with one for yourself. And sometimes the titles are a little bit long. Like for example, here you have The Reason Why God is King of All. It's a little bit long, so you have to split it up properly. We have 3 different rows. So you want all the rows to about be the same, something like this. And then let's say the title is shorter, like God is King of All. You make sure everything is at the bottom like this, so that everything looks nice. This is something acceptable. Check mark at the top, X, save, yes. And look, boom, beautiful. Now everything is exactly how we need it. Now, the next thing to do is to save it and export it properly. The way that you do that is you go to the desktop and you create a new file for the preacher's name. So here we got David Shakula. So now we got David Shakula, a file for his name. All right. Then you go back to Photoshop, File, Export, and then this is the key difference, Save for Web Legacy. Then you click Save one more time, click on Desktop, and you find the folder with the preacher's name, David Shakula. Make sure you double click the folder and it looks something like this, or it won't save to the folder and you're going to spend time looking for it. Click Save, and it should export it. Boom, there you go. Now you have the thumbnails ready for the app and for YouTube.